With 6 wins and 8 games, it's been a good conversation each and every week with Will Gunter talking South Carolina football. You can join Will on the all-new early game. It's 107.5 The Game there in Columbia, South Carolina. Will, how you doing today?
It's great weather down November 3rd, and we've got incredible weather down. It's almost summer-like weather out here, but doing great, man. Ready for a fun weekend. Should be kind of a weekend that eliminates a couple teams or helps us continue to evolve this college football playoff and the first ranking that we got on Tuesday night.
Hey, I live in Connecticut, and if the weather's been like you're describing here, and it has been pretty much up until today, we got a couple dips into the 50s this week, but it's pretty much been like 75 through October, close to 80. And I was talking to a guy in Michigan, and I just assumed if it's like this in Connecticut, it must be like this everywhere. And he's like, no, it's like 40 degrees here. So I've been looking out as well here. So every day I can take it from here on out. I think you're still going to see some more days like that in South Carolina, but me, I'll take anything I can get from November 3rd on. No question about that.
It's beautiful. We got 3 home games. South Carolina's got 3 home games that we'll all participate in after this weekend. So we're pulling for good weather, some good tailgating weather, some good football weather.
All right, Gamecocks and the Bulldogs looking for good weather in Athens, Georgia. And let's see. When you look at this South Carolina team, Will, so we're 8 games deep, 4 to go. All the metrics basically say this is an average football team. You look at any kind of measurables, whether it be offensive, defensive ranks, even the advanced metrics. You know, third down defense has been awful. 103rd in the country, I see. But those are stats, and they measure and they mean something, but this team seems to just get the job done against the teams that they should get the job done against.
Well, no, you're right. It is an average football team, and I think that people don't understand that. They see the record 6-2 and think that this is a team that is way ahead of what they actually are. Remember, we got to remember that this team 24 months ago, this team was adjusting to Steve Spurrier leaving the program and had an interim coach and was on its way to a 3-9 season. Last year, they were in a rebuilding mode and found a way to get to a bowl game. And this year, now they're bowl eligible here as we flip the calendar to November. And I think people say, well, this program down here, people have been saying, well, this program's not developing fast enough. And I guess my point is like, look, this is a program that went 7-6, 3-9, 6-7. You got to be realistic about where they are. These are not the heydays of 11-2 and Connor Shaw and Marcus Lattimore and Jadeveon Clowney. It's a different program nowadays. And I think you're right. It is an average football team. They've taken advantage of some circumstances. Obviously, Tennessee being down, Arkansas struggling this year. They did clip a pretty good NC State team to start the year. They survived Louisiana Tech. You can make the case that they shouldn't have lost at home to Kentucky, but they did. You can make the case they shouldn't have blown a 10-point lead in the second half to Texas A&M, but they did. You know, you got to keep it in perspective that this is a rebuilding program right now, and quite frankly, they've done a good enough job to be bowl eligible. And I know you'll probably ask for a prediction. I don't think that they're going to win this weekend's game, but I do think that the opportunity to win 8 games, which is a tremendous mark in Will Muschamp's second year, regardless of who those 8 wins come against, is still on the table.
So when you look at this team, what is surprising you at this point, and what would you like to see the last 4 games that's going to make you feel better about, even if they do come out at 8-4, that you would really like to see as a springboard to 2018?
Well, the defense is what surprised me. They did not get a whole lot of sacks. They did not get any sacks against Vanderbilt, but the defense as a whole, they have 17 sacks on the year, and they've done a good job of pressuring the quarterback. We've seen some young guys that are freshmen, Aaron Sterling and Brad Johnson, have kind of been impressive. I think the defensive line has played better. So I think when you ask what has maybe caught my attention, that in particular has stood out. I think the offensive line is getting better each and every week. You go back to the Vanderbilt game, and South Carolina runs for over 200 yards. It was another solid running day. They put 3 of those together now. Again, not against good rush defenses. Let's not act like they're doing it against the Alabamas and the Clemsons of the world right now. But they went out and they were able to run the football effectively against Arkansas, against Tennessee, and against Vanderbilt. And they were able to win football games because of that. And so that's been impressive. And I think Eric Wolford is developing that line, and they're coming along at a very good pace. What would I like to see? as they move through. I think you got to continue to see a diversity of the offense, being able to mix the run with the pass. You want to see Jake Bentley. Jake Bentley's about to have a stretch here where he's going to play the #1 team in the country in Georgia, and he's going to play at least as of this week, the #4 team in the country in Clemson. Last year, he had this kind of opportunity when they played Florida and Clemson, and he didn't perform well at all. So let's see Jake Bentley take his game against elite level competition to the next level, because obviously the way that schedule sets up in 2018 and who all they could have returning in 2018, the expectations are going to be through the roof to compete with this Georgia team for the SEC East next year. And you got to take advantage of what clearly is about to be a massive transition at Florida and at Tennessee.
Will Gunter from the all-new early game. Catch him on 107.5 The Game in Columbia, South Carolina. The Gamecocks taking on the Georgia Bulldogs, a 24-point favorite at home. And, of course, the newly crowned, at least for a week, #1 team according to the College Football Playoff Committee. Will, you mentioned the struggles, but the victories against Vanderbilt and on down the line, the teams that they've beaten, Tennessee in the Eastern Division, Mizzou and so forth, they're not impressive wins. They're not going to bowl anyone over, but they are on the schedule, and you need to win those games. And because of what we've talked about in the SEC and Alabama being here, and now we see that Georgia has separated itself as the #2 team and Auburn somewhere in there, then there's just a mess of teams. And South Carolina, at this point, this Eastern Division has kind of just morphed into another phase here, because Tennessee and Florida are really, who knows what those programs are going to be for the next few years. It may take them a couple years, 24 months, you mentioned with South Carolina, to get back to where they need to be. I think the talent's better than what it was in South Carolina a couple years ago, but still, you need a leader in the program, and the recruiting could be a little shaky here. So South Carolina, regardless of what happens on Saturday, looks in good shape to finish #2 in the East.
Well, yeah, we'll see what happens with Kentucky. Obviously, Kentucky getting Ole Miss this weekend. They've still got a game against Georgia, but certainly, again, the opportunity's there. I'm probably not as big a proponent as where you finish in the East as much as the opportunity. I'd probably say against Florida, but to have a winning SEC record, to win 5 games, to be 5-3, regardless of where you finish, who cares really? But to have a winning SEC record, but again, that 8-win mark, and you're able to send Will Muschamp and this recruiting staff out on the road and let them sell 8 wins, maybe 9 if you win a bowl game. I think that's tremendous for program development. And let's be honest, nobody expected this team to come in and start winning, or nobody expected Will Muschamp to come and start winning SEC Eastern Division championships right off the bat. They thought maybe it would take him several years. I do think he's ahead of schedule. Tomorrow will be interesting. Tomorrow against Georgia will be interesting from the standpoint of how does this team handle this situation and how do they match up. But at the end of the day, to me, the bigger games moving forward is Florida and Wofford, and getting to that 8-win mark, which really puts this program ahead of schedule.